Okay, I'm a little bit late, but let's get started. The first item on the agenda this evening has to do with a public hearing. Not too long ago, we received a updated map and letter from FEMA having to do with a LOMA or LOMER request, a letter of map revision request for portions of the air reserve base that are in here in Wheatfield. You remember a couple of years ago, they modified the runway, they modified where the creek goes, and that forced revisions under FEMA, and we have to formally adopt that, or else we have hell to pay to FEMA, I guess. Tim, you're the most up to speed on that. Can you bring us up to speed, please? I don't see any representative here from the airbase.
Right. What I have that I can show everyone tonight is one of the prints that came with your letter, Bob, was an 11 by 17 of the revised panel.
Right.
And what I've done is I've put that together with a print from what the current floodplain is there, and that'll kind of help explain what happened.
Did you ever get a hold of anybody from the airbase?
I did not from the airbase. I did talk to people from the DEC though, and FEMA, DEC2. The problem is none of them would actually give me the actual name of the applicant who did this work in the first place, other than that it was initiated from the military. That's all I have.
It was the military, it wasn't NFTA?
That's correct. And if you look at this map, again, on the top one, do you have enough copies up there? So what we've come to the understanding, what was done here with the DEC is, as you can see on the top map, this is all zone, excuse me, zone A floodplains. This is floodplains that were determined by an approximate method. Basically, it was a quick down and dirty thing when they were doing the rest of the mapping. So it wasn't a major waterway, so they didn't model it in detail. And as you can see on here, there's a big area of that floodplain that looks like it's on part of the tarmac there. So our understanding is that in effort to do everything they could to get to this, to get the base all on the up and up in good standing, is they wanted to make sure that that was really floodplain. So the next print that you see, what they did is they went in and did their own detailed analysis on this. They did a HECRAS model, they modeled it, and they modeled all the little culvert pipes that are in part of that ditch. It was somebody from the Air Force. This is all on airbase property.
Somebody from the airbase modeled it.
Or they hired a consultant to do this modeling work. Right. So what you can see on here is that when they did do that detailed model, now they didn't add anything, they didn't increase flows, they just modeled it in detail. And it now shows that there is no floodplain on their tarmac, and that it's actually more well contained in the ditch that's on there. So that's the main point of them doing this letter of map revision. And the other thing that you could see on here, well, maybe it's hard to see, there's a thin line right here. See this line right here? Kind of a yellowish line. Yeah. It's right here.
Yep.
That's actually the town line. Town of Wheatfield's over here. This is the town of Lewiston. So there is only a teeny little
Town of Niagara.
So there's only even a teeny little bit of that that's even in the town of Wheatfield. But they've asked us to go through the process that they do with any big letter of map revisions and just adopt it into the town code so that people are aware of that map change if anything ever happens there. Now, it's all on the base, so the town would never have any permitting authority there anyways. But it's just to be continuous in their process.
So it's really a formality?
Yes, sir.
And is there what happens if we do not do it, if we do not act? I know there were notes in the paperwork that came along with it.
Well, my conversations that I've had with them since that paperwork is, technically, since it's all on airbase property, there's nothing we can permit anyway, so they probably wouldn't do anything if we refuse to accept it. I would think the town might want to just do it anyways to be consistent with their process and not show any kind of detriment towards the base and getting that taken out. But to answer your question, if the town were to say no, they're not gonna kick us out of the NFIP. They just would wanna be notified that we're not gonna adopt it into our code.
But I think they had terminology in that letter that said that we would be kicked if we did not adopt this.
They did. They recanted. They also had terminology in that letter that we hadn't adopted our other
They would
loaner
kick
that
us out,
we did do 4 years ago, so they admitted that that was an error on their part, so.
Okay, any of the members have any questions or concerns?
How would it affect this property if they sold it? What we're gonna do?
How would it affect it?
Yeah.
If anything, it made the floodplains that are on there smaller and less restrictive. And it gives them elevation, so if somebody were to build there, they'd know what elevation to stay above. When it's a Zone A, there's a lot of other approximate methods that you have to go through to determine that, and you actually have to build higher above it because it's so approximate, so.
Anybody else? If nothing else, I will open it up to the floor. Does anybody have any comments or concerns regarding the letter of map revision for the airbase? Okay, if there are no further concerns, I'll go ahead and I will close the public hearing at this time.